This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000houses.com podcast. I'm here with Sharad Mehta, and we're going to be talking about buy and hold, but more importantly, the systems and some really creative softwares to help your life become much easier after you have built or while you're building a portfolio. Just keeping track of things becomes the business, Once you've originated a lot of doors or built a portfolio, the work is in just maintaining. So we're going to talk about that. How you doing today, Sharad?
I'm doing really good, Mitch. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. So I got my little virtual background, but it looks like my earplugs are going on and off here, but it'll just have to do because, where I'm sitting right now is just not going to work. So I got my virtual background. This is my ranch in Bigfoot, Texas. It's one of the sunrooms out there. So I hang out there a lot. And that's the background I picked today. So I also need to pay homage to my sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. If you do not have a tax deferred or tax-free account in which to grow your retirement plans or your finances in, then you are missing a gigantic tool out of your tool belt. So please check out taxfreefuture.com for self-directed IRAs, 401ks, health accounts, educational accounts. You won't believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. We're going to tell you what they're not telling you. We're going to tell you why they're not telling you. And then you can do with what you want that information, but it's a big deal. I'm going to show you personally, there's 37 little video vignettes there at taxfreefuture.com. If you'll just give your micro information, you'll get the 37 little video vignettes. My favorite ones are how people like me and other investors take very small amounts of money in our self-directed retirement plans and make them into very large amounts of money very quickly. It's one of the stopping points for a lot of people, but we'll show you how to get through it. All right, my friend, I paid the bills. So Sharad, you look like a young man. How long have you been in the real estate business?
I am 37. I've been doing this full time for the last 10 years now.
Oh, good. And you're physically in Toronto, but you do business in Indiana?
Yeah, I just moved to Toronto this year. I went to school in New York. Then I moved to Chicago for my job. So I started investing when I was working full time in Chicago. I started investing in Indiana, right outside of Chicago. Then I moved to Southern California, and now I live in Toronto.
So how did you get started in the real estate business? What were you doing before, and then how did you end up in the real estate business?
Yeah, I was an accountant full time, and I always wanted to invest in some passive income. Wanted to. I'm just by nature very lazy person. So I read a book called Flip, and then from there I read Billionaire Real Estate Investor. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a great book. This is exactly what I want to do. And then I kind of adopted that model and I started buying rental properties from there.
Wow,
that's how I got started.
Kind of a DIY, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you studied any specific mentors or gurus out there?
Not really. I mean, I read a lot of books, online forums. So that's kind of what I follow. I mean, I just, my philosophy has been very simple. Is like having a portfolio of rental properties, and I have about 75 units, and most of them are paid for free and clear. So that's kind of how I got started. I started investing in 2010, right around, when the bubble burst. So I wanted to, I guess that was a big influence on my investing. I wanted to invest and not get caught up in the, in the borrowing game. So I started just buying them free and clear, and then just got it, took the money, kept reinvesting.
It's a slow start, but man, it starts to snowball fast, doesn't it?
Exactly.
When it starts to snowball, it really goes. I mean,
exactly.
It's hard to get it up to the snowball effect, but once it starts happening, you can't hardly stop the money from coming in, can you?
Yeah, that's where the fun happens. I mean, it's definitely a grind in the beginning, but like you said, once that snowball effect comes in, that's when you start seeing the
So
huge
you decided to
value of it.
go free and clear because you were just scared of getting debt and then getting crushed.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent. And, on a personal finance side, I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. So I guess to some extent, he was a big influence on that. Like around that time, I was reading a lot about, personal finance. I mean, I just gotten a job. So, looking at ways to invest. I started investing in stocks and bonds, and I was absolutely horrible at it. And then I wanted to invest in something that was more tangible, something I felt like I had 100% control of, versus investing in stocks where I was a very, very, very small part of the company versus like owning an entire property. So that's kind of, where the influence came from.
Little common sense, huh?
Yeah, just a little common sense. I mean, I do have a pretty smart wife, so that doesn't suck.
So, Dave Ramsey would hate me, Sharad.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I bought my first 100 houses on credit cards.
Right.
Yeah. I get, but 20 years ago, in Indiana has these kind of houses. They still have very affordable houses. San Antonio, Texas was some of the most affordable housing in the world, as far as, decent housing. And, I could buy houses all day long, get in the classifieds at 8 a.m. and by noon have one or two houses penciled up, perfectly good deals. And they were $15,000 to $20,000 in the lesser side of town. And so I'd go get like 10,000 off of this credit card and 10,000 off that credit card, and I'd buy it. I get cash advances, and then I get 10,000 off another credit card to fix it.
Right.
And then I'd flip it for $60,000. You know what I mean? And Dave Ramsey would have just completely flipped out, probably.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I think like Dave Ramsey is like reaching to a different audience, where like somebody like me, at that age, I may have squandered that money on something else. So that's where kind of maybe I needed that discipline to just stay focused. I mean, you're way more disciplined, way smarter than I am. So I think like you did it the right way, but I guess I didn't trust myself with the credit.
Don't get me wrong. I think Dave Ramsey, everyone has a place, because there's a whole bunch of different people out there.
Right.
And,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's like the goal of this podcast. Like,
right.
I don't know everything, and everything that I have is not for everybody, and everything you have is not for everybody. Exactly. I'm just trying to help people find where they belong and help them find their financial independence so that they can get out there and be who they're supposed to be. You want to pick Mitch, you want to pick Sharad, you want to pick whoever you want to pick. Dale Ramsey, I don't care. Let's just help you find where you belong. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, everybody's going to relate to something different. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah. So where and what types of investing are you? What are you targeting? Are you fourplexes? Are you trying to get into 100 doors or more now, or where are you at right now?
No, I mean, I started out buying like 2 to 4 units. Again, like I was buying everything with cash. So, I couldn't go out and buy like 100-unit building. So I was buying like 2 to 4 units. I mean, just something to keep in mind. Yeah, something to keep in mind, like the part of Indiana that I invest, again, it's very affordable. So, when I was investing, I was just...
So let's say you're buying a duplex. About how much are you paying for it, and about how much is your positive cash flow in the beginning?
The first property I bought, it was listed on the market for 65. I offered 20,000 just because I figured, what's the worst that's going to happen? Went back and forth. They accepted for 25. I put 10 into it. And so I was all in for about 35, and 2 units rented for $1,300 a month. So that was my first property that I bought, and I still own it to this day.
And where did you get the money for that?
So my wife and I have always been very conservative with our finances. So we've always lived on the lower income and saved the higher income. So we had some cash saved up. I mean, I did take some loan, but I took very aggressive loan in the sense where I kind of forced myself to pay them off. Like I would take from a private lender 7-year amortization with 2-year balloon. So then I had to make sure that I was saving money to pay off those, loans as they were coming due.
You put yourself on a fast track. Kind of get back in a corner. You didn't overextend yourself. So you just got one paid and then you moved it. Now it's easier to do the next one, and then it's easier to do the next one after that.
Exactly.
As long as you don't, make any huge mistakes. Let me ask you a personal question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. But was your wife on board with all this, or was there a little disparity at first?
I mean, she was more or less on board. I convinced her over a good Panda Express meal, but my parents
Express meal. I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah. But my parents were a little bit more hesitant than, my wife was. I mean, I guess my thought process was, we're still young. What's the worst that's going to happen? If this thing doesn't work out, the downside is I go back and get an accounting job, which won't be too hard. But the upside is if everything works out, the upside is amazing. So, that was kind of, rolling the dice. I said, okay, let's give myself like a year, couple of years. Yeah.
Did I hear you say that your parents were the bigger obstacle than your wife?
Yeah, they were. I mean, just coming from, the background that I come from, originally from India, like families are kind of part of the decision. So, I mean, not that they didn't want me to do it, but they weren't like super comfortable with the idea of like leaving a stable job. I'd just gotten married.
I get it 100%. Like my wife wasn't on board at all. Like when my wife discovered that I had $250,000 worth of credit card debt after we'd been married for 30 days, she was like, she was going to get a divorce. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Wow.
I knew her answer was no, but I also knew I had $500,000 worth of free income.
Right.
So I wasn't worried at all, but it really freaks out a person. And there's like no way to, the reason why I did it like that, which, it all worked out fine. We've been married now 30 years, but there was no way for me to get her up to speed in the amount of time that I needed to buy these things. I mean, because, deals don't wait around for people.
Right. Right.
And I needed to strike. So I went out on a limb and
no, I mean, that's one reality that people have to deal with. You might have these amazing goals, but if your partner is not on board, then it's really hard to kind of execute everything, when you don't feel 100% supported at home. So I didn't have that issue.
Just for the listeners out there, I deal with this like a lot. About 30% of my students, the spouse is not on board. So we have to take a whole different approach. We have to flip some stuff real quick. We have to get some money in the bank. We have to prove a little bit. I call it hush money, Sharad. Okay, I've got your whole salary. I've got my whole year's salary in the bank. Now, can we hush up for just a second and let me work this, But
yeah. That's the best way to go about it. Yeah.
So you started developing some software to help manage your portfolios. Tell us a little bit about your software. So
I moved to Southern California in 2015. So I'd been, working full time starting 2011. So, 4 years into it, then my wife got a job in California. So we moved there. And then once I moved there, I'm like, oh, this is great. But as I started looking into the systems that I could use to kind of run my business, I realized like I would have to get all these different things. And then even after I got all these different software, they didn't really speak with each other. So at that point, I decided, it would just be a good idea to just kind of create something that I could use for my business. And then it's gotten to the point where we have hundreds of other investors using it across the country. So that was the goal behind it. I mean, I'm in a very fortunate situation that I own a property management business. So I get to see that, like the property management side of it. And then I have a very active fix and flip business, and I own a portfolio of rental properties. So I'm in a position where like the software that we created is, very broad in terms of its reach. Our goal is to like have one software that replaces all the, multiples of software that investors are using right now.
Okay. So I want everyone to go to 1000houses.com/Sharad. SHARAD. And if you want to learn more about the software over there, there'll be links to it. What is this saying? Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
It's the reason why I invented LiveCom, which was to be able to capture the incoming caller's phone number and have it put automatically into a text distribution list, so I could inform thousands of people every time I had a new house for sale owner finance.
Right.
Because no one was really doing it the way I wanted to do it, and no one was doing it where I could afford it. There was people doing some similar stuff, and so I just had the luxury. But are you from a tech background?
I'm not. I come from a business background. I went to school for accounting, so I used to be a CPA. My wife's a CPA, but then in this day and age, it's not. It's a very connected world, so it's not hard to just kind of. As long as you have an idea, and it's not the toughest part to find people who can help you execute the idea. So
I was just curious because like I had to sub out my whole thing. All I knew was what I wanted to do, and I knew that it was done. Because you can do anything. If you could dream it up, they could probably do it. But it's just a matter of how much money and how much time. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I just had the idea and I knew what I wanted the end result to look like. I mean, we're still not 100% there. I mean, every day we're just adding more pieces to it. So again, our goal is to have investors like just go to our website and then be able to run their entire business.
I understand that too, the process, because there's could be so many options, right? That you can get overwhelmed with the big picture and like, geez, all I need to do is put them in an order and just do one at a time. Also, just as maybe a helpful hint, but I started taking suggestions from, how QuickBooks did. They wanted suggestions from their people, and the people made suggestions about how they can make their software better or improve. And they started taking suggestions from the people. So that's what we did at LiveCom. Just started listening, and we would start seeing the same suggestion over and over again. Like we would move that to the top,
Right.
And it's been a long process. It's a tough thing to build, but once you get them going, have you been doing this for a pretty long time with this software? Or, I mean, do you have a lot of subscribers? Do you just have a fledgling amount right now, or where are you at?
I mean, we started building the software in 2016. Yeah, 16. So I kind of started on with what I needed in my business. And like you said, at this point, like a lot of stuff that we're developing is coming based on the feedback. So we have a very active Facebook group for our paid customers. So we have over 300 companies that are using our platform right now.
Oh, wow. So, maybe a little side. Where do you advertise? Where do you advertise to find these companies? Or that, a lot of people have great ideas, but a great idea by itself just sits on your countertop. It doesn't do anything. How did you figure out to find your users?
I mean, to be honest, Mitch, like initially when I started, I thought, if I build a great product, people will just come on their own, like they'll see a need for it, but that's kind of not the reality of it. But I've been very fortunate. I'm part of a couple of masterminds who like connecting with the right people. It's grown through building relationship with other people, and then also through word of mouth. Like we're not doing any paid advertisement at this point. We are going to start doing it, but at this point we've gone through kind of, building relationship with other influencers and then through word of mouth.
It's kind of smart when you're young because you don't want to get so much business and then you find a glitch in your software, right? And then get
Right.
So I did the same thing with LiveCom. I just want to grow like grassroots and try to handle a little more and a little more and a little more, because the last thing I want to do is get 10,000 subscribers and crash my whole deal, and then
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, at this point, that's kind of, we've hired more developers. Like we have a team of about 20-25 developers working. So we've like grown our development team, and then we're just kind of aggressively
I'm going to
working.
guess your developers are from India. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. That's a good guess. I wonder, how did you guess that? Yeah, no, in this day and age, you could, it's amazing like what you could do with, technology wise, like especially with the whole COVID thing going on, like everything has kind of become virtual. There's no difference in working with somebody, in the same town versus somebody working overseas.
Okay. So you're 37 right now. You started, what'd you say? Like, when did you start in the real estate game? When did you buy your first rental?
26.
26. So 11 years, more or less. In 11 years, if you don't mind, you can ballpark this. And you don't even have to answer if you don't want to. But in 11 years, you go from zero extra cash flow to what kind of monthly cash flow?
25 to 30,000.
Okay. So for the people out there listening, it's a commitment. It didn't happen overnight, but a man had a dream. I had the same dream as him. At one time, I thought $3,500 a month just so I could quit my job was almost impossible. But if you can get $3,500 a month coming in, you can get $10,000 a month coming in. And if you can get $10,000 a month coming in, you can get, what I mean? So today, I've been doing 24 years. So the sky's really the limit, how much you want to do.
Right.
I could go further and I could get bigger, a lot bigger myself than I am. You could too, but I'm like turning 60. So like my thing is now, I want to enjoy what I've built. I could spend another 10 years growing it to double what it is, but I can't eat or drink or spend all that I have coming in now. You're talking about over 100,000 a month, easy.
Right.
So, you build a legacy for your children or something, but at some point you say, well, do I want to double this and like start to slow down when I'm 75?
Right.
I mean, what am I going to do when I'm 75? You know what I mean?
Right.
They're already. Yeah. So I think it's all about a balance, right? How do you balance your life? Do you have balance? I always had a trouble with balance because I would be all in for years and years and years. And then I just burn out like crazy and almost collapse what I have because I would be at the end and so little energy to keep it up. How do you manage balance?
I mean, I read a lot.
Or do you?
No, I read a lot. This is a book that I go back to a lot. The One Thing. Time blocking. I mean, just the biggest challenge in our day and age has become like your smartphone. It's like an electronic leash. So I try to kind of disconnect myself. Like if I'm taking my son to the park, I leave my phone at home. So when I'm with him at the park, like I'm with him 100%. Like I'm not checking my email
present.
At the same. You're present. Exactly. I'm present. Yeah. So I mean that's the that's the battle. When like if I'm working, if I'm on a call with you, like I'm 100%. I have my phone switched off. I don't have my email going on. So I'm 100%. I think if I do that, then I'm going to be 100% present. I'm going to be excited about what I'm doing versus trying to do 10 different things. I mean, it's a constant struggle. My wife and I, we had a 2-month-old baby girl. So it's always a challenge. But I think that's the whole part of life. Like always like dealing with this new interesting challenges and how you manage those, how you navigate through those. So so far so good.
So did you have mentors in the early stage? How long did it take? I mean, how many years were you doing this, or how many units were you at before you decided I need to get a mentor, or did you?
Yeah, I wish, Mitch, that's like one thing. If I look back, I wish I had, that's one thing I would change, honestly. Like going back, I would have a mentor or coach, like somebody like yourself early. That would have, I think, saved me number of years and kind of what I did. It would have saved me time, money, and effort in mistakes that I made on my own, versus coming to like somebody like yourself, who's already like gone through that and like, probably made all the mistakes in the books. And then you could say, hey, don't take this route. You're going to run into this issue. Then I wouldn't have to do that. That's one thing I would have changed.
That was my biggest regret because, but I started 25 years ago. So the internet wasn't even what it was. So
right.
In the information age was blooming, but it wasn't like it is now. And if I had it to do all over again, that Kiyosaki book, that section where he says, work for knowledge. I wish I would have caught on to that a long time when I could have done that. I would be so much further along. And when I see young men starting at 25 and 20 and 23, I think to myself, oh my gosh, because I was 34, 35 when I found where I belonged. I was stumbling around trying a lot of different businesses. And when I would fail, I would not start the next business until I paid everyone back, which would cost me another year or so, because I wouldn't live with not paying people back. And, if I had some of their money tied up and then the business didn't work, I go to work and I just pay them back. So I spent a lot of time failing and paying people back and failing and paying people back till I found where I belonged. Apparently this is where I belong. And that's what I would have done different too was
definitely
find someone.
100%. Yeah. That would have cut so many years off like where I am right now. That would have saved me so much time. Like that's definitely one thing I would go back, hire a mentor day one, work with a mentor from day one, and then just like, let them guide me.
Just make sure, just like my caution, I'm sure you second it. I mean, make sure you vet these people, make sure they're,
of course.
Make sure they're, because there's a lot of BS out there. I mean,
oh my God.
I see these people all the time. I see these people out there, they flip like 3 houses and now they're giving speeches on how you can be successful. I'm like, God, you're making me sick. You make me want to puke.
Right.
Right. So research the person, make sure they're doing what you want to do. Make sure they're actually at a level that you aspire to be at. Make no mistake. Right. There's always another level. Like
Right.
I'm trying to find someone to be my mentor now. I got to go to another place.
Right.
You're either learning how to mitigate your taxes. There's a new chapter,
Yep.
or you're learning how to systematize and get out of your business. There's another chapter. There's always another chapter, man. So find out who did it. I did the same thing you did. I went to the mastermind. Do you mind sharing the mastermind you came from?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm part of Multipliers Mastermind, and I absolutely love it. I mean, just like
is that
like that's
Arnold?
Yes, Chris Arnold.
He just called me a couple of days ago. I got to call him back. Dang it. I've been invited to be part of that mastermind. And I really want to go. Y'all go out in Tulum, man, which is beautiful. Yes. That's one of my favorite places in the world to go.
Yeah.
And I'm in Texas. I'm not too far, but I just have I got some issues that tie me down a little bit here. I can't leave overnight for some health reasons with my family, but or I'd already been there, and we'd already know each other personally. But before all that was going on, I went to Collective Genius when I wanted to get out of my business. I wanted to back out of it and slowly and see if it would fall apart if I walked out and set it up so that it wouldn't. It took about a year and 2 months or 3 months to do it. But having those people around you that had already done it, and I was thinking that you can't automate this business, which was a complete brain screw, right? Because they push Mercedes-Benz out the back of a building about every 30 seconds. What's more complicated, building a Mercedes-Benz or flipping a house? Well, there's no comparison, right? So I had mind screwed myself for a long time, but that's how I learned too, was going to a mastermind.
Right. Yeah, no, that's been a big game change. I mean, I wish I had been part of a mastermind or worked with a coach or mentor when I started out. I mean, I think that would have helped out a lot, but it is what it is.
So I'm kind of interested in that mastermind. There's a little bit more. I mean, that mastermind is not all about business. It's kind of spiritual too, isn't it?
It is. I mean, business is a small part of it. Like one thing that's common between, everybody that's over there is like they're all come from real estate background, not necessarily just real estate investor, but agents and, some coaches and whatnot. But it's like, they go into like your personal life, also spiritual life. So, and it's for men only. So, you can like learn from other people, hey, how to, like somebody might be struggling with, like being a dad or being a husband, so you like, that's where it's a very, very well-rounded mastermind. And I could not be more happier.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Maybe I think your next one's in February. I'm gonna try.
Yes, it's every year. It's in February. Yeah, no, it would be awesome. Like if you're part of it, yeah, it would be really great to have someone like yourself be part of it.
Well, there's a lot of. I heard there's like Gary Boomershine told me he's there. And I met him at Collective Genius. It's a very neat network of people. This whole real estate investing thing. As a general rule, you can find some really good people out there, and there's bound to be someone who's been through whatever it is you're going through at some point.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah.
So before we wrap it up here, any last words of advice? Let's say you got some new young investors out there listening. They don't know where to start or what to do, or they're just kind of stumbling around. What's your advice to these guys?
I would tell them like what I would do. If I were their age, I would start out with getting a mentor or work with a coach, because, if you can, rather than making your own mistakes, if you can learn from other people's experiences, there's nothing better than that. So that's one thing, if I were to start again, that's one thing I would do. And then at the same time, don't get too bogged down with analysis paralysis. If you have a coach, I think that's another thing where, if you have a coach or a mentor, then you don't go through so much analysis paralysis. You have like a sounding board.
Yeah, you got a confirmation. You got someone to say, hey, what are you waiting for? Stop talking to me, get off the phone and go write the contract.
Yeah. And I think another thing that, you get working with a coach or mentor is like accountability, which is huge. I mean, like sometimes you need that push. Sometimes when you're on the fence, like in your heart, this is a good decision, but you need that like confidence from somebody who's way more experienced then tells you, hey, you're just looking at a small piece of the pie, like, just go make a decision. And I think it gives you confidence. That's what I would do if I was starting out.
Okay, so all right, that's really great advice. I like to say, add to that a little bit. Go through the internet, find all the different strategies, but you got to narrow it down to one at first. And
right.
You can only be you need to learn to be an expert at one strategy. Don't
exactly.
When you figure out what that is, and I'm saying you can go through all of them to research, but when you figure out the one, then put everything else aside, drill deep.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, be better at it than anything else.
Yeah.
If you try to do a little bit of wholesaling, a little bit of that, then you're spreading yourself too thin, especially starting out.
Okay, so give us your best case study. What's the best deal you've ever done? Let's kind of run us through the general numbers.
The best deal we've ever done, it's actually a couple of deals. One we're supposed to be closing on this week. We picked up a house for $5,000. It's actually a 6-unit building we picked up for $5,000. And this was somebody who contacted us 2 years ago through our online marketing, contacted us. We kept following up. They contacted us September 2018 is when they contacted us. We closed it in August of last August.
2 years.
So 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years of follow-up. We bought it for $5,000. We did some minimal work to it. Put about $10,000 into it, just like some like structural issues, and we're selling it for $100,000 within a month.
Okay, so how in the world do you find that deal for $5,000? What was the circumstance?
It was an older gentleman. He bought he had this property, in his family for a long time, and then I guess the big part was like there was no upkeep with the building, so he was getting some notices from the city to deal with the building.
He was a don't-wanter, run out of energy,
exactly.
enthusiasm,
exactly.
Basically.
He just wanted us to pay the back taxes at this point. He just wanted the back taxes to be paid off, which was about $5,000. He wanted that to be paid off. And so that's the one that's most relevant right now. I mean, there's been a couple of other good deals.
You can't really market for that kind of deal. It's just something that happens when you're in the fray, right? You knock on enough doors, you try to put together enough deals. Sooner or later, there's that deal that makes $100,000. One of these days,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like all sorts of crazy. It's like we bought a house from somebody in July who had paid cash for a house in December, paid $360 for that house. Cash, he won like some sort of a settlement for millions of dollars, but then ran into financial trouble. We bought it from him for $270,000, put 30 into it, and sold for $395. So, I would have you can't even market for that. Like you cannot, like somebody who's paid cash with 100% equity, you wouldn't even market but you have to be in the business in order to get those deals.
But yeah, so people say, well, man, some really bad things can happen, and they're always looking at the downside. The pessimists are always going, you're level, you're making an average profit on these deals, 10, 15, 20, 30,000, whatever is averaging.
Right.
And then they say, and then it only takes one deal. I say, you're not counting the good things that can happen. I mean, there's some really extraordinary good things that can happen to you too, so, I find it funny how the pessimists always want to talk about the obscurities that could happen to you bad, but they never want to talk about the obscurities that could happen to you good, So
no, I think it's to some extent it's their insecurity. Like it's their, it's seeing that other people are pushing the boundaries, so it makes them insecure. That it pushes them. I mean, that they're not pushing themselves to their own, potential. So that's why they want to bring the people down. That's what I feel happens.
Okay, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come out here. It's interesting. I want everyone to check out the systems for buy and hold or for property management that Sharad has set up. Go to 1000houses.com/Sharad, SHARAD, and there'll be all kinds of links over there. If he's got a phone number or you want to talk to him about consulting or just talk to him about his software, his systems, just give him a call, go over there and hook up with him. I'm sure you don't look like a high pressure guy, Sharad.
I don't. I mean, I meditate a lot, so just try to stay calm.
So I mean, you go over there. There won't be any pressures or anything. Just talk to him about what he has. See if it fits you. If it fits you, maybe you want to entertain using his system. Because I know one thing.
Absolutely.
Getting the properties is just half the problem. Then you got to manage them for the rest of your life or for however long you're going to have them. And having the right system sure makes a difference. I mean, it's, I have 1,300 mini storage doors, okay, in 14 locations. Without that software, you can't do this stuff on recipe cards or spreadsheets anymore. It's impossible at a certain level. So.
Yeah. Not at the level, that you want to do if you want to be like competitive and compete with some of the other, advanced investors. Like you have to have a system in place.
Yeah, and especially if you want to grow. All right, my friends, this is Mitch Stephen with 1000houses.com podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Sharad. I got to say the last name. Sharad. Say it for me. Mehta. I told you, Mitch,
like there's nothing you can say that I haven't heard worse than that. So yeah, no, it's all good.
And I thought I had it too, but there it was. Yeah. That's my old.
It's not the easiest name, and it's not Mike Smith, or something like that.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by to get some Sharad Mehta, and I'd like to thank taxfreefuture.com for sponsoring us. And if you have a chance and you don't have a self-directed IRA or 401k, check it out, taxfreefuture.com. There's 37 little video vignettes over there that can really open your eyes to what a tax-deferred or tax-free savings account or retirement account, financial account can do for you. Check it out, taxfreefuture.com. You won't believe what your financial advisors aren't telling you. All right, we're out of here. Bye, Sharad.
Thank you, Mitch.